Hey, peasants. You did not expect to see me again. Well, I'm here, and your hosts are right here as well, so...
Look, I don't think I can time music to that again. I'm sorry. Your Majesty.
Okay.
That's right, everybody. That's how we're starting off this episode.
We're starting it off with Queen Elizabeth, our most guest.
Yeah, old Betty's currently got us imprisoned in the tower. Funnily enough, the rooms that she's put us in are nicely decorated, funnily enough, so...
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Least. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the room that I'm in is surrounded by weird posters of strange Japanese men.
Well, I seem to be in a room that's pretty much in the decor of mustard and 70s vibe, with no heating. So that's what I get for paying tax, I suppose. But, you know.
What about you, Catherine?
Oh,
well. I have bookcases and a laundry basket.
So the Queen expects you to do chores?
Chores and read, apparently. Not that I'll probably get to the chores.
Well, maybe she wants you online tutor the royal children. You know, you could be the the royal governess.
No, thank you.
Oh, come on.
I'm okay.
We gotta figure out something interesting to do while we're here.
Feed the crows, which apparently like blood sausage.
I want to feed some ravens.
You know the actual legend behind the ravens at the tower is apparently if the ravens were to leave, the kingdom would fall and a great catastrophe would befall London. Apparently. That being said, that's happened quite a few times in London, so
I have heard of that, and they have like a full on. They have a full on like Raven Master.
Yep. And the ravens get treated by the same vets that look after the animals at London Zoo. Apparently.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I've actually been to the tower. It's side rant because again, history geek, but the tower is just fascinating. And obviously, you get the whole ghost stories and legends, and it's old as hell. The Tower of London's been there for about 1,000 years, so
How old is it? Old as hell.
It's seen a lot. Oh god, I'm such a nerd.
That's okay. You're in good company.
Yep, you're in good company with us. I mean, when I was growing up, I was like a shark and dinosaur kid.
Oh, I love sharks too.
Yeah.
When
I wanted to be a marine biologist growing up.
I don't really know what I wanted to be. I think it was like I wanted to be some sort of doctor, veterinarian, lawyer hybrid.
A friend wanted to be a librarian. Before that, she wanted to be a whale trainer at SeaWorld.
Did she ever get to be a librarian?
No, but yeah, no, she never got there.
Oh, that would have been great.
Do you want to know what I wanted to be when I was growing up?
Yes. Tell us.
I wanted to be in forensics because I'm that kind of nerd. When I was like 7 or 8 years old, my mom got me a book on forensics, and it taught things like blood splatter and how glass breaks differently depending on which side of the window you hit it from. Taught me about like bones and like this bone indicates that it was the skeleton was a female, and this one, so on and so forth. And I found all of that so fascinating. And I was like, I
Mm.
want to do this. So there you go. There's my nerdy backstory.
Like, I think it depends on the state, but you don't actually have to have a license to be a practicing mortician, to be the coroner.
In
Correct.
America, I find that not hard to believe.
Well, no, see, because you'll actually have people that will they'll be like the sheriff of a town plus the coroner plus this plus that. No, you do not have to be qualified. You do well, you have to be qualified, but you do not have to be you don't have to go to college for it. But yeah, to become a
Coroner, the county coroner. All you need to do is just get elected into the office so you can essentially nominate yourself and ask people to vote for you.
pathologist, that's the word I was looking for. To be a pathologist, you do have to go to college for and get a medical degree
Yeah, but
or a medical examiner.
There was a I think it was a last week tonight episode with John Oliver where it talked about it, and there was a guy. He was the county coroner, and essentially he had no credentials at all. Like he was in a small town and he got voted in. He just kind of took the job as coroner. He didn't go to medical school. He didn't know how to like properly store bodies and things like that.
God.
He was just kind of like, I'm here, I guess. And he had like one of those like 40 guzzler ounces of like soda from like one of those gas stations, so like the big jugs. And he was just drinking it and he set it down and he went to go grab something else and he was like, oh, better not forget this. And he picks up his guzzler because on the table was like some sort of cooler that looked exactly like his drink. And he's like, yeah, there's some organs in there. So I don't want to. There's been a little bit of an incident where we kind of forgot. What?
Oops.
Whoops.
You know, and I realize that probably sounds really weird and really odd, but growing up, like I'm currently living in a town that just has a coroner, and that's not odd to me.
But yeah, it depends on the state, and depends on the city. But yeah, if you're living in a small town and there's literally just you and like 500 other people or like 1,000 other people, and it's just like a small little town in the middle of nowhere. Excuse me. And you can basically just put yourself out there to be the coroner.
I know last week I mentioned about Burke and Hare. I think I did. But it's like one of the greatest examples of karma, the way I see it is, obviously, if you don't hear the story of Burke and Hare, there were serial killers in early 19th century Edinburgh. And they would sell the bodies to a doctor at one of the medical schools. And eventually, they got careless and they got caught. I think it was William Burke managed to escape across the border and just basically disappeared from history. But William Hare, he was publicly executed, and this is just his body was donated to the medical school. Where the skeleton, they've still got his skeleton. And even more grim is they made, I think it was a notebook from his skin.
Why?
I don't know. The Scots are weird.
Yeah, so while you were talking,
I'm sure that done wonders for Irish relations back in those days.
While you were talking, I googled the population of my town, and apparently I live in a town with about 2,800 people, and I'm like, no wonder big cities scared the absolute shit out of me. Now I understand.
It looks like your population is going down. It's just steadily kind
of. Well, where I live, there is like two nursing facilities, and the majority of the population is over 60. So
Mm.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. The dots have connected. When you said Burke and Hare, Nicola, you know what I
Yeah.
thought of? The Burke and Hare movie with Simon Pegg
Yeah.
and
Andy
oh,
Serkis, was it not?
Andy Serkis as Burke
Yeah.
and Hare. And I remember watching that because it was on Netflix, and I was just like, "What is this?" It was so ridiculous.
Well, true story. The real story is a lot more grim than what that movie was because it was more comedy themed. And I remember thinking,
Hmm.
I think they could only use Burke and Hare as an example to make it into a comedy. They're serial killers. How could you make a comedy movie from serial killers? It makes no sense. It'd be like making a comedy movie out of John Wayne Gacy's story. You
Well,
wouldn't do that.
I mean, dark comedies. There's that whole
Mm.
genre of dark comedies. So,
Yeah, true.
I mean, it's sort of like this whole thing where you're just like, okay, well, they're stealing these bodies from like graves and things like that, or maybe killing folks and dropping them off and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
how did they come to this, and how did they kind of like plan it? Because it can't be like straightforward, like, yo, I'm gonna kill that dude. Okay, I got you, man. You know, it can't be like straightforward like that. It has to be like they probably talked about it, and then there was
Mm.
probably like a couple of fumbles, and then somebody was just like, I got it, and they go to like kill some dude, but then he ends up overpowering them.
Mm.
And so yeah, I can see sort of like this sort of like a comedy in a way that they missed,
Mm.
missed opportunities, or just bumbling around trying to figure out what they were doing, and then when they turned in the body and they get paid for it, they're like, yes, this is what we want to do. This is our life.
Because I think what initially was the case was that back in those days the Anatomy Act hadn't been passed, which obviously allowed bodies to be taken into medical schools because it was still kind of a little bit frowned upon. Um, but the medical school at Edinburgh at the time was like one of the biggest in the world, and yeah, apparently they would accept bodies for quite a good price,
Yeah.
and it's often the misconception that Burke and Hare dug up bodies. They were grave robbers, but no, they were, like I said last week, they were serial killers. They picked their targets, got them drunk, and then overpowered them, and smuggled them to the medical school, and Robert Knox gave them a good wage for it, essentially.
Yeah.
But when everything transpired, the doctor, his reputation was in the pits, and yeah, we know what happened to the other two. So I don't know if you can actually see the skeleton of Hare, but I was on a ghost tour of the vaults a while ago, a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
and they had a replica of his death mask, and I've actually got a photograph of it. So I might share that picture. I could share that picture. Thankfully, it's just a picture of me and not the butthole X that took the picture. So
And the death mask for celebration, because guess what? We got 50 followers on Twitter.
yay!
Woo!
We got there in the end.
It's okay. But yeah, no, it's really great. We woke up, or I woke up. Nicola was probably awake already and just didn't tell us. But no, Crenell congratulated us on reaching 50 followers, which we were really happy about. We're like, whoa, you guys like
Whoa!
much.
Wow.
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 Why did you sound like you choked on something?
There's a joke there I could make, but I'm just gonna let that one
Oh,
go.
really? Oh, you went there.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
This
But yeah,
podcast might be a little bit blue.
spicy. Our podcast might be a little bit spicy, but
Why is it
yes,
spicy?
we've reached 50 followers on Twitter, and we're at 31 follows on Facebook, and 16 followers on our Around the Campfire podcast YouTube page, which we're just really so happy you guys like everything that we've been doing, and just all around thank you so much for your support and your just compassion and things like that. So
I guess
That's
this.
postcard. That's postcard, remember?
Yeah.
That's clock.
Look,
Or
look. I was
time.
just wondering why you were doing the sign for postcard at me. So I was like, okay, cool, new dance move, awesome. I suppose we should make mention that this past weekend we had a Zoom party. We had Tiffer Joe and we had Kat join us. So hi guys, and hi to the random people that happen to be working around Tiffer Joe while she's working. Apparently, you guys think we're hilarious, so here's to you. But anyway. So it was really funny because we discovered that as often as we've talked to each other, we've never actually talked to each other while watching each other. And as this progresses, I'm finding out why. Because now while one person's talking and the other two are just waiting, we're like dancing and making weird hand gestures and making the other one giggle. So
Nobody scratched their butt, okay?
well, you can't really see my butt. You can't see my butt, so I can scratch my butt all I want, but no one picked their nose. And now suddenly everyone has the urge to pick their nose.
oh goodness.
Must resist the nose.
Oh goodness.
Up the beak. I
But
might find my brain back there.
you might find your brain, but it also might be in use from Rob Weedoff. He might be using it
Yeah.
at the moment.
That's true. It might be his turn this week to use it. So real quick before we completely change the topic, because I brought this up because I wanted to share it. For anyone that wants to see what like gallows humor and like meets fully educational looks like, I highly recommend reading the book called Stiff. Stiff. Sorry, I have a slight lisp, so some of these letters don't work right. Stiff, Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. So it's a book by Mary Roach, and she writes about what happens when you die, and specifically gearing towards the cadavers who have their bodies donated to science, like what happens. It goes into like gross anatomy labs and like the body farms out in Tennessee, the like different jobs that cadavers have. And it's basically very pro donate your body to science, but it's, oh my God, it is so funny.
Body farms?
Yeah, they have body farms in, well, I know the big one, the one that people are most familiar with is the one in Tennessee, but I think they also have one in Texas. And what
I'm
they
just
do,
kind of getting this image in my head, and this sounds completely random and weird, but I'm just imagining kind of like a field of corn,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of corn, it's, people.
you're actually not that far off. So what they do is they take bodies.
Or is it kind of like that episode in Doctor Who when they go to that futuristic hospital and they're all, and everybody's behind those cases, and you're getting sprayed with, I have not seen that episode in a long time. I think it was the New Earth episodes. It's when you've got the cat nuns that are running the hospital, and it's when David Tennant's it's his first episode outside the Christmas episode.
No.
and they do that body swap. That Cassandra comes back, I think. And the
Well,
face of
I
both
do
turn-
know
face of both turns up.
I do know one of the first ones that David Tennant did involve Cassandra coming back. But if you will let me explain,
Okay.
I will tell you. So what they do is bodies that have been donated to the farm, they will they study decomposition in different circumstances, so they can kind of get a better idea of like they're basically trying to get one step ahead of serial killers, because if they can store a body, they will. So they leave some bodies out in the open. They've taken some and they've burned them to see how the body reacts. They've also like we'll put them in car trunks. They'll just leave them out in the open to let nature take its course. They'll put some in the shade, some in the sun, just to see, what differences the environment can make to different bodies. So you're actually not far from the truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Funny story, actually. This is when my nerd moment kicks in. It's a funny story. Because of studies that they did at the body farm, they actually discovered because a weird phenomenon happens whenever like they would find bodies, even like ones they thought to be deceased, like in fires and such. They would find them curled up with like their hands in almost a mantis pose, is what they call it. And so a lot of people thought that these were like defensive, marks like this, or like not marks, but like they were in a defensive pose. And so it was a lot of people, like they were like, oh well, these people have been murdered. So what they did was they took a bunch of these bodies and they would put them in fire essentially, and they watched as the muscles would contract upwards, because like instinctually we are designed to protect the brain. So everything would start to curl up to protect your brain. And that's how they discovered that, is by body farms. So highly recommend this book, especially if you're really into like gallows humor and learning about cadavers. But the title does tell you that it is about dead bodies. So if that makes you a little squeamish, maybe not read that one.
Yes, if you're squeamish or you don't like gore, things like that, probably.
Well, it's not very gory.
Some people might find like the descriptions of maybe bodies in decomposition states and things like that might consider that gore to them. So they're like,
Yeah.
no thanks.
It might be triggering for some people as well, maybe.
It's
little
possible.
bit.
But yeah,
little
it is very educational, and it's very very funny, but it is very much dark gallows humor. But it's like it's respectful. Like it's not distasteful in any way. Like it's a really good read. I genuinely enjoyed reading it. I laughed my ass off the entire time.
It just shows you the complexities of the human body and how it works, how it doesn't work, how certain things affect how it works. Because not one single human body is the exact same.
That's true.
And yeah.
That is true. So
the more you know.
The more you know. So now I guess we can get off of the subject of dead people.
Yeah, how did we get there again?
You started talking about William Burke.
Oh yeah. I forgot.
You started talking about William Burke and William Hare, and then we kind of went off from there.
That should be my nickname, is Segway.
And then we
I thought your nickname was Unintelligible Scottish.
Unintelligible Scottish Segway.
That's
all right. I can live with that. That's a lot to type, though.
It's a Segway with a tom-tom that has a Scottish accent.
Look, I don't trust tom-toms after I had a tom-tom with the voice of a Dalek and it tried to make me drive into a cornfield.
I had to use a tom-tom last week on a driving lesson.
Oh,
which was interesting. But
we've completely derailed from what we were actually going to do. Again.
Both of you have.
both of us now behind. You're in this too. We're all in this together.
Wow, Captain.
But yeah, we're just really we're just really happy that you guys like us this much. And thank you so much to everyone who has followed us and everyone who listens to us and everyone who thinks that we're hilarious, even when we're just like, well, we're just telling a story. So, yes. And with that, we actually kind of got a request. Actually, it was like two requests. So Nicola and I do streaming on Mondays and Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Nicola's by herself on Mondays, and I'm with Nicola on Fridays.
On my own.
But
We
yeah,
are not bringing that in here. I will not cry on stream.
I don't sound like Leo Salonga, so I'm not even going to try.
but yeah, we're on Fridays. Nicola and I either play a game together or we are on chat play a game. So we got sort of a question from the Wild Bandit on Twitter and Cornell on Twitter, who sort of wanted to know what our gaming backgrounds were, like our game origin stories. Um, and I gotta say, mine is a villain story.
Oh.
I think Nicola just choked on that mouse she was eating. I don't know what happened there.
It was a hiccup.
But no,
Sure.
they wanted to know what was our background because Wild Bandit had asked what was our first system. And Cornell wanted to know, how we got into video games and sort of, because you guys already know how we came to be together playing Red Dead, but before that, what were we doing? So, in celebration of our 50th follower on Twitter, we're going to reveal our gaming secrets.
Our background.
Our backgrounds. Doo 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 doo. So,
Also, I'm just going to go ahead and warn everybody. Cornell gave some really awesome ideas as to how to edit all this together to make it sound really cool and dramatic. And while I appreciate the faith that you have in me, I don't know that I can bring to light the exact image that you're hoping for here, but I will try. And honestly, if it works, it'll be a surprise to all of us, myself included.
Yay, it'll be a surprise.
Surprise!
So whoever wants to go first can go first. I can go first, or one of you can go first as well.
I can go first. So, for anyone that read my article on that I wrote for the gamers, talking about grief and gaming, you kind of have a good idea of what all I'm about to say. But for those of you that didn't, how dare you? My history with gaming is a little tumultuous at best. The first system that I technically started to play on was an Atari. I'm not that old. Let me just throw that out there. It was my dad's. It was my dad's Atari, and that's how I learned. And I was like in love with it. I thought it was fascinating. And then when I got older, I ended up getting a Nintendo, like the classic Nintendo. And my two favorite games on it were Super Mario the original Mario, and it was a baseball game. And for some reason, and this is really ironic, I always played as the Texas Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And why I say that's ironic is because one, I'm from Louisiana, and anyone who who has lived in Louisiana long enough knows that Louisiana hates Texas, Texas hates Louisiana. So I just find that really, really funny. But yeah, those were my two. But my my mom didn't really understand the point of gaming, and neither did most of the females in my family. So it was always very, I was kind of shamed for it in a way,
Mm.
for liking video games. So I was kind of quiet about my love for video games. Um, at one point, somehow, I don't remember exactly how, I ended up with a Game Boy and I had The Sims and I had Tony Hawk Skate Park on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would literally just kind of like hide in my room, like blanket over my head, playing these games. I was just in love with them. And then I stopped
Mm-hmm.
playing for a while, um, until I bought a PS3 back in 2014. Yeah, in 2014, I bought my first PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I had played somewhat here and there on the PlayStation 2, um, during my first marriage, quote unquote marriage. And but mostly that was like Guitar Hero, and that was me watching everybody else play because I wasn't very comfortable or confident as a gamer, and that still had that shame in the back of my head of you're not supposed to like this is a waste of
Mm.
time, this is a waste of money, this is only boys like this kind of thing, just
Mm.
like on repeat in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, well, I mean, I can always just watch people play, that's fine. But yeah, in 2014 I bought my first PlayStation 3, and I was just kind of very casually gaming here and there until my grandfather died. And when my grandfather died, I needed something, just anything. And like, because to me, when like we were very, he and I were very close. And
Mm-hmm.
so losing him, to me, the world kind of stopped moving.
Mm.
But the world around me had kept, like, was still going. And I didn't want to write. I didn't want to draw. I didn't want to do anything. And I needed something. I needed a release. And I found a game called Dead Island. And it was, post apocalyptic, zombie apocalypse kind of deal where you could just go around and kill everybody. And it was very grim and very like dark and very,
Mm.
uncertain. And it was like the world was just stopped. The world was standing still while these zombies were plaguing this island, this paradise.
Mm.
And it fit perfectly the atmosphere that I wanted. And that was one of the first games that I'd ever beaten from start to finish. I had completed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that is how I got my start really into hardcore hardcore gaming. And now I don't feel shame for it. I don't feel embarrassed by that anymore. Now I will publicly be like, "Oh yeah, I love gaming." And like that's a big difference from how it was even like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, yeah, it's always that always seems to be the issue with like video games is that if you're a female and you like them, then it always becomes this sort of like shameful secret because you
Mm.
have family members that don't understand video games that view it as sort of a male dominated like thing, and in a way it is because they make up a little bit more than half,
Oops.
which are just like you play video
Mm.
games, name every character in like Final Fantasy 1. And then you have girls that are just like, "Oh, well you're just doing it to get guys' attention. You're not really a gamer." So it is sort of like this, it's sort of like in the space you may have a group, a small group of friends that don't question whether or not you are a casual gamer or a hardcore
Mm.
gamer. And for me, it's just gaming is just gaming. And
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're hardcore or casual, because if you have a controller or a tablet or phone game in your hand, you're playing video games. So
Yeah.
I consider
Okay.
you a gamer.
So, hi guys. Sorry. I just discovered that my computer has an airplane mode. So while I was trying to turn up the brightness of the screen so everyone could see my pretty face, um, why I don't know, but anyway, I accidentally disconnected myself from the internet. So part of what Catherine just said is missing. My bad.
Just a little bit. But I can give you the spark notes. Essentially, uh, for many people, video games is sort of the safe haven from
Mm.
people that are like, you shouldn't be playing video games because that's not what women do, or you're just doing it to get attention
Mhm.
from guys, or guys are just like, you don't really know how to play video games because you can't name every single character in
Gatekeeping. Hmm.
fantasy, like, yeah, gatekeeping
Well,
to keep you out. I mean, the same thing happens with like sci-fi and some horror and like comic books especially.
It's
funny
like
story
you.
about that. And I did actually get permission from Joanna to tell the story if it ever came about, be it in an article or on here.
Mm.
She was really, really into Call of Duty
Mm.
for a while there. And then her husband's in the military. And so they had like a little get together at some point. And a lot of people in his area were talking about playing Call of Duty. So she tried to jump into the conversation
Mm.
and they ended the conversation right there. A little while later, she was reading an article that someone had written, some guy, I know, shocking, had written, and it said that when a woman tries to talk to you about video gaming, then she's probably flirting with you because she wants to sleep with you. So these guys, while she's trying to carry on this casual conversation with her husband's work friends and all this, they're thinking that she's trying to sleep with him.
Oh, goodness.
It's like when you go into like your local game stores, and it doesn't happen a lot. I mean, it's never really happened to me, not that I've been aware of, but sometimes you feel like you would get judged. It's like people would turn around as if to say, "What are you doing in here? What are you doing looking at the latest console releases? Like, when you wouldn't know how to play that game." It's like I'll play that game for you. I mean, funnily enough, the more I think about it, an ex of mine uh, essentially tried to take over the controller when I was trying to play GTA 5
Hmm.
by insisting that I didn't know what I was doing, but that was just him in general about everything outside of games. Just he was he was that guy. But I've got a whole lot to say about him, but this is not the place for it. But if you ever come across it, he who must not be named, that's what I've got to say. So
And yes, that was a visual, and it was a lovely visual. Um,
yeah.
when Janie used to work at a game store. She's been an avid gamer since she was like really, really little. She's played on you name it. She's probably played on it anyway. And so like she wanted to work at a game store. She loves games. She's very comfortable around them. And the amount of men and women who would walk in and would take one look at her and go, "Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about." And they would jump into the line of her male coworkers, or they would talk down to her simply because she's female. Um and like it's such a fucked up reality that we live in. And like even
Yeah.
like women would come in and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm buying this for my boyfriend, so I need to go talk to a male to find out things." But what was really funny is the amount of times that any of these male coworkers had to turn around and ask her questions.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's
See.
there's a lot of problems that we would probably take up the rest of this episode on, but
Yeah.
God, yes.
origin stories. Nicola, did you want to go or did you want me to go?
You can go.
Okay. Um,
Tell us your villain story.
Yes.
my
Tennis.
my earliest memory of video games was um playing like Mario on the NES and playing the Olympic Games um cartridge that had came out. It was like Spot and the Olympic Games and or Mario and the Olympic no, it was Mario and Duck Hunt and then like Spot, like the Sprite little 7-Up dot.
Mhm.
Um and like an Olympic Games cartridges that we had and I had that for a very long time. I would come home from um preschool. I say the earliest memory is that it really is the earliest memory that I have is probably about 4 when I started playing video games. Um, because the NES was my dad's. He had bought it for him to play, and then he had set for actually for my older sisters. They played very little of it, but I was just, sort of enraptured with it. And I was really the only one of my 2 older sisters to continue to play video games after they had gotten older. So for a while, it was just myself playing on the NES. And as we moved from place to place, the only constant was that I would have, I would be playing a game and I got the Game Boy, the big brick gray little Game Boy that I'd play on car trips, and my dad bought me those little magnifying like view things that you can attach to the Game Boy that has a light in it because he was tired of me holding it up in like the dark and trying to get the headlights of the car behind me so I can see what I was doing in Pokemon. And he was like, here, just here. This is yours. This is yours. Um, and my parents have always been very encouraging of us finding things that we're interested in and just go ham essentially. So for my mom, she was just like, "Oh, okay, video games." Yeah, but she didn't really play games, but she would ask us. She was very supportive of us, and my dad was just kind of like, "Okay," you know.
Whatever.
Yeah, he's just like, okay, whatever. These are my daughters. Uh,
Outnumbered.
the only thing my mom just kind of took a stance that she didn't want me to go into was like arcades. She didn't want me to go into like arcades by myself. But since I didn't have any older brothers and my mom was usually when we came across arcades, we were usually in the throes of like an errand. She wouldn't really let me in because she didn't want me by myself. And I'm just like, understandable, but like I missed out. Well, not really. I didn't really miss out on arcades. I would go and visit them at like when we had the opportunity to, and she would be letting me do it with my sisters while they go and play like putt putt and things like that, or I would be playing like games in the arcade. But yeah, it's when we had moved, we eventually got like a Sega. So then I would be switching back and forth between like the Sega Genesis and the NES and just playing all the games on there that I had, and then asking my parents for one for like Christmas or for my birthday, just one game for my birthday or Christmas. And it wasn't until I got to the tail end of like the near the end when the N64 came out is when I got my next Nintendo system. So I was playing a lot of games on that, and my parents would give me, like games and stuff like that for birthdays and Christmas. I never got a PlayStation. I played the PlayStation at friends' houses, and like my cousin had the PlayStation, and the first thing that I remember on it was like him. He had bought the PlayStation, and he had gotten Final Fantasy VII, and it ran like ass. Because the disc was like stopping and starting, and it froze,
Yeah.
and it was in the really beginning parts where you're like we got off the train and you're about to attack the tower and all of that opening area, and it would always stop and freeze, and you'd have to restart and like do it all
Yeah.
and get a little further.
So I just
Oh.
thought of two funny stories that I didn't think of a minute ago. But when you said Final Fantasy, that made me that clued in a memory. So when I was a kid, I remember when the N64 came out, and this memory for some reason is just burned into my skull.
Mhm.
We my cousin, one of my cousins was significantly older than me, so she would often babysit us, and we would go to other people's houses, other people who had far more money than we ever would. And I remember walking into this house, and there was this huge television. And of course, back in the day, they didn't have flat screens or
Yeah.
all that. So if it was a one of those big flat screen televisions, it was
So
like
big
fucking
back.
massive
Yeah. Yeah.
in every way. And I remember walking into this house, and it was like a two-story house with this big open living room and this big old TV like right against the wall. As you like walk in, you had to like walk in, step down, and then you would be like still kind of overlooking their living room in a way. And so I walked in and like saw this, and all I saw was Mario's 3D head spinning around, and that was my first and only introduction to the N64. But I was in awe because that was the first time I'd ever seen 3D Mario. I was like, oh, they can do that now. And then the second one was the Final Fantasy. So my ex-husband, when I was pregnant, we were married at the time. I had really really bad insomnia, um, like you do when you're pregnant. At least I did, and a good majority of my friends did. And he would play Final Fantasy to help me go to sleep because that was one of the few things that would put me to sleep. And because like it was just very calming music and everything. So it was Final Fantasy 8. We finally figured out it was Final Fantasy 8 that he would play. And like he'd put the disc in, he'd play for about 20 minutes, and then he'd look over, and I'm like out like a light. It was like, yeah, so you know.
Yeah, it happens. Um, let's see. Yeah, I never got a PlayStation. I didn't get the PlayStation or the Sega Dreamcast or, the Sega Saturn. So I had missed out on those, but I enjoyed the three systems that I had. I
Hmm.
actually still do have my N64 in its original box.
Ooh.
It's in my laundry room. It's on the shelf. But I still have the original box, and I have the red extended cartridge that you needed for Majora's Mask, and I still have my controllers, and all of my games that I had for it. So the only way that I can hook it up to my TV would I need some sort of like HD adapter and things like that. Um, yeah, I played a lot of games growing up, and they were always supportive of it. They never told me that it was a boy thing, and all of my friends never made it sort of like video games are for boys. They were never like that. They were always like, "Oh, awesome! You play video games? Did you play this game?" And I'd be like, "Yes or no," and they're like, "Oh man, you gotta play it. It's so great." Like they were always like really supportive of it. And just
That was always handy if you're playing the same game and you got stuck on a segment, but they had passed it, so you would say, "Can you help me?"
yeah.
Mm-hmm. See,
That's my experience of Spiral.
and see,
Well,
like I would, we would have moments where, like, I would still kind of, like I said, casually game here and there. And there was one game on the PS2 called Burnout Revenge, and I loved that game. Burnout Revenge, Mortal Kombat for the PS2, and Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Those were the three main ones. Well, and Devil May Cry. Those are the main ones that I would kind of just casually play, but enjoy way more than I would actually let on, because
mm,
again, shame. But we would sit there and we would play Burnout Revenge, and we would just pass the controller around the room, and it was so much fun. And I just remember thinking, if this is such a bad thing, if this is such a waste of time and waste of money, why am I having so much fun? Am I
mm.
just a bad person? And yeah, so that's the kind of shame that came along with mine. And I'll shut up now because I've already had my chance to tell my origin story.
It's okay. It wasn't until probably like I played games on the PlayStation 2, and the PlayStation 1 at friends' house because I never picked them. I never just picked up those systems. Um, I think my parents were just like, you have a Game Boy, you have a Sega, and an N64 and an NES. It still works. And like, you got like one of the Game Boy Colors. I think you're good for now. And I was content. I didn't know that the PlayStation had came out with the PlayStation 2, and then a friend was just like, "Oh man, have you played Metal Gear on the PlayStation 2?" And I was like, "No." And so we went through that, and then so yeah, we did Rock Band too for the Xbox actually. Uh, but it wasn't until probably later when high school, like when I had graduated high school, that I bought myself a PlayStation 2. And the game that I bought with it was like Shadow of the Colossus. This, of course, was maybe like a couple of years before the PlayStation 2 was going to give way, reach the end of its, life and give way to the PlayStation 3. And so um I had played through like Rogue Galaxy and like Shadow of the Colossus and Ico and all of those games and stuff like that on my own now that I had my own PlayStation. And and then I got like a GameCube because the GameCube was on sale for like $60, because it basically was like, yeah, the Wii's coming out, so we gotta get rid of all this stock right here. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'd take this Game Boy and all of these Game Boy games for like really cheap, and I paid like $100 altogether. And so yeah, so it was just like I was just slowly collecting things that I had not had um, when I was in high school at the time that they had essentially came out. And so I had like the 3DS and the DS and all of that. And I still have my GameCube, but I don't know where all the connecting parts are for it, like the wires and stuff like that. But yeah, it just kind of was like from earliest to now, I still play video games. Um, but I just never had the systems that most people had. So I didn't have an Xbox. And then I eventually got an Xbox, but this is when Xbox was like, yeah, we're at Xbox 360 now. Where are you? And I'm just like, I'm at Xbox. I'm at Xbox. I'm making my way. But all of my friends were always very supportive of like video games. And if you're playing a game, the only thing that would probably tell you is like, oh man, that game's ass. And you're just like, no, I love it. It's so great. And you would tell them all the points of what makes the game great to you. And they'd be like, oh, that sounds interesting, but it's still ass. You know?
Heathen.
And so it's sort of like all these weird like little games that, you know, friends would be excited to show me, and I'd be really excited to like see and things like that. So there's still so many out there that I haven't played because I didn't have the system for it, that I missed out, but I enjoy like watching long plays of people doing it.
Mm.
So it's just from there to now I've always completed games. No matter what, I've always completed them. Like all of the games that I have currently are complete except for my second playthrough, my second A playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2. I say second A because the second time that I started playing it, I got up to 70% of completion and I was on chapter 3. I had just started chapter 3. We had just gotten to Clement's Point in chapter 3 and I was just like, all right, now that the camp's set up, peace out homies, and I just rode off. And I just started exploring everything because I was just like, I know new things open up with each chapter, but I'm at 70%. So give me all of these side quests. Give them to me. And like, um, so when we had gotten our PS Pro, what ended up happening was that the save data for the Red Dead Redemption 2 we didn't transfer it over. We didn't use the USB stick and things like that to transfer it over to our PlayStation 4 Pro. And so I lost all of that. And I had to start
Oh.
from the beginning. But I'm just like, this time I'm going to do it right. So I'm in chapter 2. I just started chapter 2. I haven't done Lenny yet. We just literally gotten into chapter 2 from being out in like, you know, Coulter, and I'm let's do this. And I'm like at 30%, so I've just been like running back, bringing them food and things like that, and then like,
Yeah.
peace, go on again. And the only other game that I haven't completed was Resident Evil 2 as Leon. I had started it.
Yeah.
I beat it as Claire, so technically I did complete it. I beat it as Claire, but I haven't completed it as Leon, which is the second person, and then you play as Claire again, and then you play as Leon, and then that's it. The game's done, because then you get the end where you fight Birkin. Um, but yeah, I've always completed games. There's to like a completion either by 100%ing it or just um trying to get as close to 100%. So there are a couple of games that are probably like 80% or 99%, and I'm just like, I've spent like 100 hours on you already. About to spend 100 more.
Some
my
games are like that though.
yeah,
Yeah.
my partner, when Dragon Age Inquisition had came out, I had pre-ordered it and I got it, and I played through it 3 times uh in like a row. And that game is very long. That game is
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
120 hours long, and so I
I think it took me 3 years, but I played it in sporadic bursts.
yeah, I took off and ran. I was just like, all right, easy peasy, and then I completed it and it was like 100, close to 120 hours, and I did everything, you know, like all the side quests, all the things that you needed to do. And then I was just like, I'll play again. So I played again and I did it again with like 120 hours. And then he's like, what are you doing? I was like, once more into the breach. And he's like, how many hours have you spent with this game? I was like, 360. He's like,
Did
that's
that,
like,
did that include the DLC? Because was there not a DLC for it?
the DLC didn't come out. Like, this was
Ah.
didn't come out until probably a few months later, but
Hmm.
I had played it when it had first came out, so that was like November, and so I had beaten it in like 2 weeks, 3 times.
It had you by the neck.
Yeah, it usually has me that. I like Mass Effect and I usually like
Mass Effect is getting a remaster next year.
Yeah, I already have their first remaster though, so
I am gonna get hold of that because I've not played Mass Effect.
you should. It's good.
I
But
didn't have an Xbox, okay?
well, it was
That's
on.
my excuse.
It's also on PlayStation 3 it had its first iteration of remaster was on PlayStation 3. It's also on PC as well. I think the
Yeah,
first,
I know it's on my Steam wish list,
yeah.
but I've just got a basic laptop and it runs like ass when it comes to larger games. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just gonna let you know. I know with the remaster of like the one that I had for the PlayStation 3, it still is gonna look a little funky for the first one.
yeah. I know they said that. I think they said for this remaster, it's going to be a lot more polished off. Apparently, I don't know to what degree,
Uh,
but
Probably updated graphics for
yeah.
PlayStation 4 and the PS5. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be like Twin Snakes, or it's gonna be
Yeah.
or it's gonna be like Resident Evil 0,
Yeah.
Evil 1 remaster, or
Yeah.
Well,
the
not to,
remake 2 and 3.
not to cut this Mass Effect discussion short. Nicola, what is your
My
origin
origin,
story?
uh, fairly simple, really. Just like me, but yeah, my origin. um, my dad had a Sega. I don't know how long he'd had it, but that was essentially my first game in memory was my dad's Sega, and this must have been there about the late 90s, I would imagine. So I was about, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old at the time, so I don't really remember that much. I don't remember essentially hee haw about the about the 90s. Um, but I remember farting around a bit on, the likes of Sonic and being terrible at it and being terrified of the water level when that doot, 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 doot music used to start up. And I remember playing or trying to play Streets of Rage and getting all excited when you press the action button and the cop car with the bazooka came out. Um, I don't remember that much about Golden Axe except the name and some of the sound effects. Um, but the first console I got was the PS1.
Mhm.
This was the second edition because this must have been early 2000s at least. It must have been 2001, I would imagine, because I got the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, not Sorcerer's Stone. It's Philosopher's Stone. But that was the first game that I got with that. In fact, I've got a bundle of games with that. I think I had Harry Potter, Tomb Raider 2, and the Rugrats Search for Reptar. Games that I still have minus Harry Potter. I don't know what happened to my copy of it, but it's gone and I'm sad. But yeah, I think it was the second edition PlayStation because it was a smaller one as opposed to the big chunky one that my uncle had. My uncle had the larger one. But yeah, I used to watch a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Steph. Hi, Steph, if you're watching or listening. Hi. But yeah, she had all the cool games like like Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, Metal Gear. She knew how to play those games. I didn't. So rather than talking about cool games that I spent my days playing, I will talk about the really quote unquote dweeby games because I had very age appropriate games because
Mm.
my mom was under the impression it was, uh, more feminine. Well, not necessarily feminine, just I think she was hoping it was something I would grow out of.
Yeah.
um, but No, I played the
It's
likes
not
of
just a phase, Mom.
I played the likes of Spyro. I love Spyro. I've still got my original copies of Gateway to Glimmer and You're the Dragon,
Hmm.
along with my old memory cards. I still have my old memory cards. I'm not getting rid of those. They're like nuggets of gold. But and then obviously that got upgraded to like the PS2, and I had the iToy. If anybody remembers the iToy, that was kind of like what would become like the Kinect. It was one of those games. It was like one of the first. You'd have the little camera above your TV,
Hmm.
and you would pretend to be washing windows and karate chopping guys out the way, and so random, but it was so fun. But and then I remember attempting to play um Angel of Darkness. Didn't end well. um Trying to think of other games. I had obviously Simpsons Hit and Run, Simpsons Road Rage. I loved that. Um but for the most part, growing up, it was more casual, I would say. Um Up until I got older, and then I moved out, started to work, got more money, and then that's kind of like where it more grew and evolved. And I remember my mum said to me a couple of years ago when I asked for the remaster of Skyrim, which I've not played yet. But yeah, she says, I thought you would have outgrown that by now. And I thought, oh no, 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 no. No, I've got my own money, see? See, I don't have to ask your permission anymore if I could get a game, knowing that you would more or less turn your nose and be thinking, no. But in my mum's defense, to be fair, she was, kind of on the money with that by saying that, do you need that? And trying to discourage me from, impulse buying. But
Mm.
if you're a gamer, you do fall into the trap of buying games or devices on an impulse. Because sometimes if you see a game, it's just like shiny, shiny, shiny. I have to have. And you sort of like just completely ignore the price tag that's attached to it. A lot of the time, I'm very aware of the price tag on games because it's thinking, I'll wait a little bit until it comes on sale. I mean, that was my excuse for the longest time with Spider-Man, because I was kind of praying and hoping that it would be on PS Plus at one point. It's not happened, so and the sequels just came out, and I played through the first one in order to gear myself up for the sequel, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and get the first one, and I did. So I've had a lot more luck with my PS4 than previous consoles. I don't remember playing that much on my PS3. I remember mucking around a little bit on Red Dead 1, and I technically, the way I consider it, I've technically not played Red Dead 1. I know of it, I know the story, I know what happens, but I've technically not played it myself properly. I've not properly played it. I just ran around the desert picking flowers and tying people on railroad tracks. Um, but
Funny enough, we were actually talking about this during the Zoom call. Is like now that I'm sitting here thinking back on my life, I'm like, wow, I was shamed out of loving so many things that have brought me so much joy. And I think that's one of the good things about being an adult is you can like whatever you want and you don't have to answer to anybody for it. It's like no one can shame you out of things anymore because there comes a point where you just don't give a shit anymore. But like I actually avoided Red Dead 1 because it was like westerns, and it was really funny because I actually genuinely enjoyed them. Like my I grew up watching them, and I was shamed out of loving them because it was westerns are stupid and that kind of thing. And so I avoided it. I avoided it completely. Not when it first came out because obviously that was in a very difficult time in life. But when I did actually start completely playing games, I saw Red Dead and I avoided it like the plague.
Mm.
And and yeah, so now that I've played it, and it's like the funny thing is, um, one of the big stereotypes that goes on with gaming is that if you're a hardcore gamer and you dedicate your life to gaming, then you are this antisocial person who lives in their mom's basement, or you're just completely cut off from reality or whatever. But I find that that's actually not the case. Even
It's a
before,
half truth, really, but
I mean, like,
it's
yeah,
a half truth.
a lot of the times we do like to kind of isolate ourselves, but that's because people suck. But
Yeah.
no, even before, like, the big massive online multiplayer started up, like, it would still be like gaming would still be a thing. Like, like I said earlier, we would just pass the controller around whenever we were playing like Burnout Revenge, or when I was playing Devil May Cry, a friend of mine was walking me through how to play it using one of the online walkthroughs, because yeah, I couldn't figure out how to play on my own. And it was always a very social thing. And then when I started playing like Dead by Daylight, I ended up meeting a lot of really cool people through that game. Um, and still do. It still is a very social game. And then obviously here we are after having played Red Dead Online. So
Yeah, where it's just sort of like each of us have this. Well, in some ways, for some it's straightforward, and for others it's sort of this winding to get to where we are now.
mhm.
Mm.
And then it's like, one of the things, and I brought this up in the article. I think it's been a while since I read my own article. One of my favorite things to do on Red Dead Story Mode is to go up to Mount Sean and just sit, because it's so quiet up there, but the music's still playing. You can hear the wind and like all this stuff, and it's such a peaceful thing. And there have been times both online and in story mode where I've just gone up there just to think. And I think that's what gaming is to me, is
Mm.
a way to escape. And when you can't escape enough to just throw yourself into a storyline, it gives you a place of peace.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's the way I've always looked at it, is because life, this sounds cliche, but life can get too much at the best of times, especially, well, take this year for example, but everybody's got their own individual lives, their own struggles, so not one person's the same. But it frees your mind up a bit. At least it does for me, and I know it does for a lot. I mean, you'd be a bit hard pressed not to find any gamer that doesn't think the exact same. And it can, just you could be anybody in a game. That's why I love like really good like character creators. You could be a Dalish elf roaming around the hinterlands, and I think it's the hinterlands and Dragon Age. Um, or you could be, casting spells in, the world of Skyrim, or, shooting zombies in the face in Resident Evil, or being a covert agent in Metal Gear. You can just be anybody, and
Or an outlaw in Red Dead.
and you're not really tied to reality. You kind of just go off for a little while, and
Mhm.
then gradually come back, and then realize that 12 hours went by, and you think, oh, I've not been to bed in like X amount of hours. I've not eaten all day. I've missed work.
I can remember there was one point, it was I was playing Dishonored. There we go. I was playing Dishonored. Dishonored holds a special place in my heart because it was the first game that I ever beat from start to finish by myself. Um and like that, to me, like that was a huge thing, because unlike Unlike you, Catherine, I tend to, if the challenge is just too hard, I won't do it. Like I'll just quit, because to me it's like if I can't do it, it's a failure. But this one was the one that I actually pushed, and I wanted so badly to beat it. I was like, I'm not giving up. So I did. And I finally beat it. And I mean, there were a lot of really funny moments along the way, because if anyone's ever played Dishonored, you know that it's cloak and dagger, so you have to sneak around a lot. This is also when I discovered just how bad my anxiety is, because yeah, cloak and dagger games are really really bad for anxiety. But
Explains a
there
lot for me.
yeah, there's one of the mechanics of the game is, if you kill too many people, then something will happen way later on. So I was like, okay, I need to cut my chaos down a little bit. I need to be a little bit more stealthy, and not just so in your face with, "Ha, I'm here to kill you." I need to play the game how it actually wants me to play. And so I slipped up behind this guard, and I grabbed him from behind and choked him out. Um, and then like one of the mechanics is, you're fine as long as like no other guard around you sees the body. So I heard a guard coming, so I grabbed this body. He's sleeping, he's snoring, everything is fine. And like I was like, okay, I've got to hide him. So I found this little place, and I was like, cool, I'll just throw him over here and no one will find him. And I ended up throwing him over a railing, and all I hear is nothing, 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 splash. And I just kind of looked over, and I'd thrown him into this well. I was like, son of a bitch.
Oh no.
Son of a bitch. And so, yeah, or my favorite one is like accidental button presses, where you're trying to like throw a stealth dart, or something to put people to sleep. You throw a grenade.
Mhm.
Needless to say, my chaos was always high, and if that doesn't explain me as a person, I don't know what else will.
Yeah, depending on whether the amount of people that you knock out or sneak around, or sneak around, knock out, or kill, can affect parts of the game,
Yep.
especially the ending. It can affect the way that the end plays out. Um, and so it can affect, I think, the second. I don't know if it affects the second game. I haven't played the second game yet.
I mean, I remember when I first played the very first Assassin's Creed, um, like going about Damascus as Altair, scaling the rooftops, flicking out the, I don't know what that is, throwing knives. That's sound for throwing knives, by the way.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Throwing knives. Like
Throwing.
Altair just like crouch behind, like on a rooftop, and he just goes like that. But the more I think of it, when I watch back the trailer for the first game, because you got to hand it to Ubisoft, they always do really good trailers for the Assassin's Creed games.
Mhm.
And I love the trailers for the first one, and especially the second one. But anytime I watch back the trailer for the first one, I get so mad because it shows you with a crossbow. Shows Altair with a crossbow.
Mhm.
Do you get a crossbow in the first one? No. I felt cheated.
I mean, that's just one of the things that they probably ended up having to cut out.
But I love the first Assassin's Creed. I get nervy with stealth games. But yeah, I remember getting really mad by the end of the first Assassin's Creed game, and I literally pitched a bitch fit, the biggest bitch fit I've ever had in games in recent times when I finished it, because it just, if you've finished the first Assassin's Creed game, you'll know that weird ass ending you get with all the glyphs on the walls, and it just ends. And I remember credits came up, and I remember thinking, what was that? Wait, what what just happened? Why did it went all weird and sci-fi? And I thought it offered no answers. It just gave me more questions. It done the whole spoilers, obvious bad guy reveal
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
Al-Mualim. And I thought, oh, really? He's the bad guy? You don't say. The only guy in the black cloak's the bad guy.
Weird.
Wow.
Is-
But no, and I'm curious to see what Valhalla is. I've not watched any videos about it because I want to experience it myself. If I could get a hold of a PS5, which
It's on
I'm
PS4.
hoping- Yeah, but I wanted to get it on PS5. I hope to get it. I hope to get a PS5, and I hope to get Valhalla on PS5. Yeah.
I'm waiting until tax time to get a
That
PS5.
that being said, I do have Origins and Odyssey, and I've heard really good things about Origins and Odyssey. But I've not got around to playing it because I've usually got a rule with myself that if I'm playing a game that takes a long time to complete, I tend to stick to one game until I finish that, and then I move on to the next one. That's just the way that my brain seems to configure it. But
I played Origins and I loved it because like I am here for anything dealing with Egyptian mythology. Like that is the quickest way to make me spend money.
As soon as they announced it saying it's in ancient Egypt and it showed you is it Bayek?
Yeah, Bayek.
Like sliding down the pyramid, I thought,
which you can do, by the way, and I'm so happy.
I just thought that is like the coolest. Give me a release date. I need to know when this is. And I shared the trailer to a friend of mine and says, God, there's a new Assassin's Creed game coming out.
Look, I know we've technically run over and I just restarted the timer.
Always do.
So
we always do.
I know. Like no one is surprised at this point. But yeah, when I've had a very love-hate relationship with a lot of Assassin's Creed because I tried to play one of the games and I couldn't get past the tutorial part where you have to pickpocket some guy, and I said, fuck it, I'm never playing an Assassin's Creed again.
Is that not the first one?
I think so. And then I get to like Origins comes out and I was like, no. And they're like, it's ancient Egyptian, and I'm like, no.
Because I know that
I refuse.
Because the later ones from Origin onwards, it's essentially kind of like a reboot. It's more RPG-ish style.
Basically. But yeah, and then that one trailer that dropped, because this is what made me laugh when you were talking about Assassin's Creed always having the best trailers. What made me finally decide to buy it was there was a trailer that went around, and it was like the hieroglyphs, but the paintings, and they were talking about like different aspects of the game, and it was so funny because, and like what made me laugh the hardest is like there's Anubis and he's like, yeah, I was talking to this guy's wife and my lipstick popped out, and they're like, oh man, why would you do that? And like now he's gonna kill all of us. And I was like, okay, I have to buy it now, and I genuinely loved it. Now Odyssey, I hated Odyssey.
I've heard people say it's pretty mixed, but I think that's just the Assassin's games in general, because I know that there's people out there that can't stand the third one. There's people out there that like the third one. I played a little portion of the third one. What kind of threw me off was the change of controls. That kind of threw me off. I played a little bit of Revelation. Didn't complete Revelation. I didn't complete the second one. I got very close to the end though, so I've done the majority of the campaign in the second one. I can't remember if I completed Brotherhoods because it's been a while since I played it.
Well, that's like a lot of people.
I didn't play a lot of Black Flag. I played like the first little section of it. I've not played Unity. I've not played Syndicate. Like any of the other potential spin-offs. But
look,
yeah, because I get nervy with stealth games.
Pirates, pirates, ancient Egyptian, and Norse mythology are the best ways to get me to spend money. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So if anyone wants to sell me things, that's how to do it. But I tried Black Flag because a lot of people really didn't like it. A lot of people
Oh,
did not
the
like Black Flag.
graphics are incredible in Black Flag.
They are. I tried to play it, and within like 10 minutes, I ended up falling out of the map, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go with a hard no.
I hate vehicle sections in games. Anytime where it tells me to control, like whether it's a car, a plane, or a boat, and I know in Black Flag you're predominantly controlling your pirate ship, and I could not for the life of me figure out the controls, and then you have to tail other ships and destroy privateer boats and Templar boats, and I'm thinking, I don't have the patience for this at the moment. That being said, I might revisit at some point because I want to, but
Well, and that's like that's one of the good things about games like Assassin's Creed is there is at least one for everybody. I'm really hoping that Valhalla is good because again, I love Norse mythology, so I'm really hoping, and I'm gonna be so angry if I explode and you hear this loud explosion over here, they messed it up. Um, I actually did pre-order it, but I didn't get a chance to completely pay it off, so I will actually be getting it on the 12th rather than the 10th.
I tend to get worried with some games if a game's got a lot of hype.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to get a little bit wary sometimes, especially if, like for example, Cyberpunk. I've never been into the process of that game's development. I've not been keeping an eye on it. I'm not at the bit trying to get hold of it. That rhymed. But yeah, I know some people are worried about that because there's been constant delays and there's been some words through the grapevine about the development and crunch culture and the likes. But at the same time, if they're doing the delays to polish off a product, then you've got to give them credit. I mean, they'll be doing it for a reason.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Red Dead was delayed because
Yeah,
they put out a whole bunch of stuff saying
yeah,
fall 2017, and they delayed it by a year.
yeah.
They delayed it twice. It
Oh,
was
did they delay it twice? Oh,
yeah, they delayed it twice. It's supposed to come out in like the fall of 2016, then spring of 2017. Well, no, spring, summer of 2017, then fall of 2017, and then they delayed it to 2018. Just it wasn't ready yet. Um,
Mm.
but or I may have my things. It may have been fall of 2017, summer of 2018, then fall 2018.
Mm.
But yeah, they had delayed it. I mean, it's not the first type of game that has been delayed.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, for myself, I'm just like, you guys can complain all you want about a game being delayed by like a year or a couple of months, but growing up, there were so many games that were just like you didn't know when they were gonna come out.
if another one came out.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's like you only knew when you actually saw it on the shelves, like, oh man, or someone was like, yo, did you know that? But you would see an ad for it in like a comic book or in like the toy thing, and it'd be like coming soon, and then you won't hear anything for years.
I mean, I remember my friend, she used to get the PlayStation magazines, and this would have been 2004 thereabout, because the two games that were predominantly in the magazine for this issue was Metal Gear 3 and Resident Evil 4. And those were really hyped up games. So obviously you've got Hideo Kojima and the Metal Gear series, and then you've got Capcom and the Resident Evil series. And obviously they had their own new takes with the newer consoles. Obviously you've got the whole story with Resident Evil 4 with the enemies having weapons and the chainsaw zombie guys. They're not really zombies, but
look, those chainsaw guys on Resident Evil scared the shit out of me. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
And it's true. And then you've got obviously Metal Gear 3 where you're in the jungle and you're having to sneak about and hunt things down and stealth camouflage. And if you've never checked out the Metal Gear series, that's its own that's its own thing. It's cinematic, it's epic. And Metal Gear 3 has got one of the best themes of all in terms of gaming. I've got it on my Spotify because I heard it again recently and I thought, how could I forget this bomb ass song? Snake Eater. It's like a Bond theme. It really is. It's epic.
Excuse me, sorry.
There's me saying I'm not going to try to sing it. Sking?
No
Sing
skinging.
Skinging. I can't speak. But to be fair, it is just over midnight for me, so that's my excuse. But
You know, the funny thing is, I was going to like be really sneaky, and I was gonna upload the video for this one too, so everyone could have behind the scenes thing. And then Catherine immediately turns her video off.
Check.
It's too late now. But no, because I have my phone connected to my computer, I've been getting text messages with like really personal information popping up. So you're saved.
can I close out with my impression of the Queen again? Can I?
But yeah, before we completely sign off, because again, I know we've gone really, really over, and I hope you guys are okay with that. If not, well, I guess you tuned
You've
out
been
like
rambling again.
us ramble. No, but yeah,
How
They call me Segway.
we've only gone over what? 10 more minutes or close to 10 more minutes?
give or take. Yeah, give or take, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, we just
So
wanted-
remember, Stephen J. Palmer is doing his Steve J. Palmer, his live signing.
yes.
Yeah, Steve J. Palmer's live signing. I was like, I know we're gonna forget something. Steve J. Palmer is doing a live signing. He's been having his prints and things up on Gung Ho signings, but he also is partnered with Streamerly, and so he's doing his signings on the 21st, I want to say, of November. I believe that was when he said it was 2 weeks from now. Well, 2 weeks from when he had announced it. So that was probably around his birthday, which was last week. But yeah, he's doing the live signing on Instagram, and you guys should totally go out. And if you haven't bought, I'm sure that there's still some prints and things like that that you can do. Let me see. Yes, we did blog it. We did share it. Yes, Saturday, November 21st, from 1:30 to 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. He is doing an Instagram live autograph session with Streamerly Live and Gung Ho bookings. And so follow his Instagram, follow his link on his Twitter. And I think he has the link up on his Instagram as well. But if you go to his Twitter, which is at Steve_J_Palmer, it's just his name, you should be able to order some prints if you haven't for Bill. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Besides,
Somebody should tell him, to get him to sign, "Hey Marion."
I'm sure somebody's gonna say it, maybe in the chat, or maybe ask him to sign it.
From Marion.
If not, we just gave you the idea. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Also, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying you're welcome.
You're welcome, everybody. Glad we're
You're
here
all
for
right.
you. Oh, so side note, this is mostly for the visual crowd, but you know Arthur's thing that he does with his hand when he's gesturing at people? He does the two finger thing. I've started doing that. I pick it up and I'm like, oh, shit, I did it again.
Howdy, man.
And I say that because I literally just did it to the camera. I was like, you're welcome. And then I was like, and I did that with witnesses. God damn it. But yeah, the other thing I was going to say is I just got Mick's autograph. And so a huge thank you to Mick. I was not expecting the little message that I got. So that was an awesome little surprise to open up and get. And the other thing is I just got permission to yell it when I was telling you that my phone is connected to my computer and personal information just popped up. I just found out I'm going to be an aunt.
Yay.
I'm so happy. Yeah, that was like the messages popped up and like, I don't know if you guys saw it, but my eyes went really wide.
But I thought I seen something out the corner of my eye, but I thought, I'm not going to pry. It's not my business. Don't pry. Don't pry. But
So,
then I saw your Facebook. I could just kind of go.
Yeah, so thanks, Jacqueline, for popping that up on me while I'm trying to record my podcast. But yeah, so I'm gonna be an aunt. I guess technically, my former sister-in-law is gonna have a baby, so I'm gonna be an
Yay.
aunt. I'm so excited!
Yay!
Yay! Anyway,
More reason to have a party.
more parties.
I don't know what that was, but
We're gonna dance now. Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of parties, to celebrate the fact that we now have 50 followers on Twitter and 31 on Facebook and 16 on YouTube. Whoop whoop. Dancing as we go. We are going to plan a Zoom party for all of our followers. There will be a Zoom link posted eventually, probably this upcoming weekend. We're not quite sure of the day or the time just yet, but keep an eye out. We'll update you as we go. If you aren't comfortable being on camera or talking, we still want you to come and hang out with us. You can sit and listen to us. You can talk to us. There is a chat function that we will be keeping up with the entire time. So don't feel obligated to come on with video and audio and all that stuff. You don't have to. We will still be having a chat feature, but yes, we wanted to do something that would bring everyone together. Who knows? We may try to play some games together or something. Everyone that's got like PS4, maybe we can do like a Red Dead Online thing. Who knows? We'll figure it out. Give us your input of what you'd like to see done to celebrate this awesome occasion. And once more, thank all of you so much, because we would not be here without each and every one of you, the people that go out and share, the people that go out and like, the people that communicate and interact with us. Thank you all so much. And that goes out to Cornell and Usman and Tiffer Joe, Katrina and Mick, especially. Couldn't forget Mick. And just everyone, thank you all so much. And I know there's like a million more. Well, actually, there's 50 of you to thank. God, 50. That's such an insane number.
It is.
50. That's older than I am.
Yeah.
Just rubbing the salt in the wood. In the wood? The wood? The
Into
wind.
the wood. Quit rubbing the wood on the camera.
Quit rubbing in the woods.
That's how you get poison ivy.
It is.
Hey, look, her cheeks match her hair. It's great. We knew that was going to happen. Like the minute you slipped up and said something really, really dirty, like we knew it was going to happen. You prepared for this.
See, the funny thing is, a lot of the time I do it unintentionally, and then I have the delayed reaction, and I think, I just said that in front of somebody.
Delay.
Oops.
Oh no, I'm an unintentional pervert. Join the crowd.
Yeah, unintentional.
The rest of us are just regular perverts. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that being said,
You peasants are free from the tower. Until next time. Now, be on your way so that the cleaners can fumigate this ghastly place.
God.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Tally-ho, pip-pip. Cheerio.
Oh my God. Oh boy. Thank you for joining us around the campfire. We'd like to thank Brett Van Donsel for providing the music, and you can find more of him on his website at brettvanDonselmusic.com. You can find us on Twitter at CameoGang1899 and on YouTube at Around the Campfire Podcast. This is Catherine, riding off, and we'll see you around, Cowpoke.